Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the absolute shambles that is turning into a compelling farce at the Conservative Party conference as Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng U-turn on their U-turns. They may have U-turned again. Oh, you like U-turns? How about some U-turns on your U-turns? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, where to start? A political party conference is carefully managed, and it's much easier for the Conservatives as well because nothing really happens. It's just speeches and talks, sometimes with questions and answers, but those are mostly for the fringe events. Liz Truss had time to prepare the statements and policy announcements that she wanted to make. Yes, she'd only just become Prime Minister 4 weeks before, but she was expecting to be in that position before a more settled leader would have been planning their conference announcements anyway. This was her chance to rescue the damage done by the first 3 weeks of her time in charge of the government. People were anticipating the speeches by Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng, as well as Truss herself, as key parts of the conference to get right. Everything else would be fine if those speeches went well. Well, at the time of this being published, Liz Truss will have delivered her speech. But at the time of recording it, she hasn't. I haven't waited till she's done it because it's already all gone to hell. It almost now doesn't matter what she says. It'll be awful. Let's be honest. It'll be awful. But it almost now doesn't matter. The conference opened up on Sunday after another disastrous interview round by Truss and party chair Jake Berry. She then U-turned on the policy of abolishing the top rate of tax for the wealthy. On Monday, Kwasi Kwarteng gave his speech with absolutely zero policy content. Like, what the hell? Why are there no policy announcements from the Chancellor, who spent decades waiting for this very chance to show the world he knows how to manage a major economy? Speech. Massive speech. Oh, I've got nothing to say. The only thing of interest to come out of him on Monday was that he was... Oh, no, it wasn't him. He didn't say it. The only policy announced actually came from the government officials. They were going to bring forward the next fiscal statement from November the 23rd to later this month, thus avoiding the need to taint the Doctor Who anniversary. Then yesterday happened. Yesterday, the U-turn of U-turns. First, Kwarteng said, actually, I might not bring my fiscal statement forward at all. So basically, there's utter chaos. There's a complete disconnect between what the Chancellor's saying and what government spokespeople are saying. You know, so what happened? Has someone lied to the party? Nice one. All changed their mind? Nice one. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's chaotic. We still don't know as well. Will he bring it forwards or not? He's not definitively saying he won't. He's just like undecided. Oh, you're undecided. When as a result of your statement a couple of weeks ago, the markets crashed, you're not sure what to do about it. This is important government policy being made up on the fly. Then several of members of the cabinet started to attack various policy U-turns. Members of the cabinet ministers have their arguments, of course they do, but they have them together away from the public. Then they present a united front to the public as dictated by the Prime Minister. They won't all agree on the position, of course, but you toe the party line. You create this veneer of unity. That is the price you pay for being one of the most powerful members of government. What you don't do is have your little arguments in public, undermining the already weakened leader in the crucible of your party conference. The Welsh Secretary said that benefits should rise with inflation, even as Truss was hinting that they weren't going to. The Leader of the House, Penny Mordaunt, also expressing this view. Home Secretary Suella Braverman seemed to be criticising Truss's U-turn. Not long after, Truss said, well, she might U-turn on her U-turn. She might still abolish that top rate of tax after all. The timing wasn't clear, of course. It might be that she still intends to leave the measure out of the next budget vote in Parliament, but bring it back later on. So it's unclear if she's U-turning on her U-turn or not. And that's a big problem in itself. It's unclear. The Conservative Party conference with a new Prime Minister laying out her legislative and economic agenda, and it's unclear what she's actually saying. At her own carefully stage-managed party conference, yesterday was a complete shambles. It was like listening to the cabinet arguing about policy, but instead of it being in the cabinet office where I don't get to hear it in private, it was in public and in the high pressure stakes of the party conference, which was a must go well situation. I imagine Tory strategists texting Labour strategists and saying, so this is what it feels like, is it? This government is now a completely dysfunctional mess. Much worse than Johnson's. Johnson's cabinet were incompetent and generally fairly unintelligent. But they all stuck to the party line. And the reason for that is because Johnson promoted people to his cabinet for loyalty to him. They were the people that would just back him through thick and thin. What we've got now is an incompetent cabinet without even the discipline. And I don't know if I can even comment on the government anymore, because between recording the video and it being published, to say nothing of the majority of viewers watching it, policy might have changed multiple times. I mean, I know I'm playing with fire here because I'm recording it before Truss does a speech and uploading it after. But, you know, this is not going to get any better for the Tories. I wonder if they realise that. They might not, after all, you know, they kept thinking Boris Johnson might change his ways, didn't they? Oh, he'll change. Oh, he just needs to get rid of the people around him. Oh, get rid of Dominic Cummings, then it'll be fine. They got rid of Dominic Cummings. Oh, no, it's still shit. Oh, you get to get rid of those. You get rid of those. Change your top team, Boris. Change your top team. Kept changing it. Do you know what the problem was? Boris Johnson. You know, and nothing that's happening with Truss's government is a surprise to me. I'll admit the speed of which it's happening is. I was quite clear. I thought she'd get through September, because I didn't think she'd be this stupid. She'd get through September, maybe a little bit on the turn in October, then end of the year, November and into that is where it would start to fall down a little bit, and into the new year. Now it's all gone. It's gone. There was the latest poll out yesterday. It's not a particularly useful one. I'm not going to bother referencing it too much because, unfortunately, it doesn't show what's happened this week. It compares it with before even the budget statement. So, but it has Labour with a stonking lead. I'm now thinking that Labour, it's not just the Tories are going to close the gap a little bit, but Labour will still be left with a really large lead. I think Labour are going to extend the lead in the polls when they come out at the end of this week. And you just think, the chaotic U-turns on U-turns. Yes, I knew this would happen because she is an idiot. But I didn't anticipate U-turns on U-turns during the party conference or this early on in her premiership. I thought she'd wait to get her feet under the table first. But anyone paying close attention to British politics over the last few years, they knew Liz Truss was not the sharpest tool in the box. She was never on top of her brief, belying a laziness when it came to understanding details. And she was never able to hold herself in any form of interview or debate. And I keep coming back to what I noted this summer. Labour strategists were consistently finding that the more members of the public knew about Liz Truss, the less they liked her. People were panicking a little bit because they were thinking, oh, you know, the polls keep saying, you know, there don't seem to be that much dislike of Liz Truss. It's because most people didn't know her. The public are now getting to find out much more about Liz Truss. As a cabinet minister of many years, she was largely kept away from public appearances because she's crap. Well, the Prime Minister has to put themselves about. She doesn't have to put herself about as much as she is. I know people have given her plaudits and saying, fair play to her. She is actually putting herself out in the interviews in a way that Boris Johnson never did. And it's like, yeah, this is good. This is an improvement in democratic accountability. I cannot, from an objective sense, criticise that, and I'm not going to. Yes, I am. It's a bloody stupid move strategically because she's crap at interviews. Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Truss, for the better approach to interviews. Doing interviews not just with the people you know are going to be really kind to you. Great, but it's bloody stupid. And I'm saying all this, as I say, before she's even given her speech. This is just the mess she and her government and her party are in right now. You know, the reason why I say the speech may not even matter is because they may actually have reached the floor. There's a core of support in this country that will just always vote Tory. Doesn't matter how bad it is. They just believe the alternative will be worse. They just always believe that. They may have reached that floor now. It may now be the point where they can't actually sink any lower. You know, this is a self-inflicted mess. But let's get to the nuts and bolts of what exactly the mess is. So she's intent on driving this long discredited small state, low taxation and regulation economy, right? She's supported in this endeavour by a cabinet assembled almost exclusively by people who support this ideology. Like I say, Johnson packed his cabinet with toadies who would loyally stand by anything he did. Truss didn't. She packed it with people who shared her ideology, thinking it would do the same thing. But it hasn't, Because the problem is, as soon as she's diverged from part of the plan, cabinet ministers started undermining her in public. Boris Johnson recruited for loyalty, so he could have a complete about face and they'd still back him. You know, and the reason she's had to diverge from part of the plan is because of the public have massively turned against it. They weren't impressed with her energy bills plan because it was weaker and more expensive than Labour's. They've got a choice now. They weren't impressed with her tax cuts plan, and they were especially unimpressed with the financial market crash that she precipitated by letting Kwasi Kwarteng stand up and open his mouth. You know, people talk about that costing us £65 billion due to the money the Bank of England planned to pump into the economy to stabilise the pound. A move that's working so far. But people are worried about what happens when they stop doing it, as they will do in another week. But that's just the new money that had to be printed. That's actually the least of the problems. The move wipes £500 billion off the value of the market. That's not great news for a country dependent upon the financial market. It's too dependent, sure. It would be nice if we weren't. If we didn't have our fortunes linked too strongly with the City of London, which doesn't really give us that much anyway. But it is what it is. And what it is a disaster that has already shrunk pension pots and increased mortgage payments, as well as prevented some people who were just about to get a mortgage getting one at all. There's this disconnect between what Truss and her cabinet want and what the public wants, and the disconnect is so enormous that backbench Tory MPs cannot ignore it. So Truss is facing a massive battle here. She tilts one way. She faces losing budget votes from Tory rebels that will not go along with this level of lunacy. She won't be able to get any of these measures through. So she tilts the other way and goes, look, OK, we need to chop something so that my backbenchers will let this through. But then she has her cabinet breaking out in public arguments because they're idiots. Either way, what she gets is a party that even casual observers can see is at war with itself. So yeah, Labour are winning the next election. All of the political considerations about the next election that were valid up until last month are all out the window. It's all gone. It's all gone. All this thing about, you know, Labour, they might get a technical majority if the wind is really fair, but it won't be a really good majority. But no, they could actually get a majority now. It's absolutely mind-blowing that Labour can have the worst result since the 1930s. And then they might get not just their best result at the next election. It might actually swing them right into a decent majority. It's absolutely insane. The entire dynamic of British politics has changed. But that doesn't mean to say that is the course we'll definitely be on. Tories have got 2 years to do something about it. But I don't know what they're going to do about it. Get rid of Truss? Sure, but how and when? Anything's possible, but I'm not sure it'll be as quick as some people make out. There are major problems with replacing Truss. Many Tory MPs will think they acted too quickly in getting rid of Johnson, given where it landed them. They might not wish to act in haste again. In the meantime, those same Tory MPs are going to have to keep checking the news every hour to find out what their party's policy is. Can you imagine? You're talking to one of your constituents at a surgery and they ask you, oh, so what's the government position about, or what's the government going to do about X, Y or Z? And you have to respond, well, this morning we were going to do this, but by lunchtime we were going to do this other thing, but now I think we're not sure. What a shit show. Has there ever been a government this messy? And before people try saying, and you thought Boris Johnson was bad, I said long before Truss was made Prime Minister, she would be worse. I'm not surprised. Just doing a running commentary on what's happening and why. And what I wonder, what the Tory party members who voted for her thinking though. Are they still seriously trying to claim, oh, it would be better than with Rishi Sunak, wouldn't it? Not that they'd have been in a great position with him either. I'm not suggesting, oh, yeah, he was definitely the one to back because he would have had a chance at winning the election. No, he didn't have a chance either. They just don't have credible leaders right now. Until they clear out their swivel-eyed loons from the levers of power, in the party as well as the country, they're just buggered. And there are still major points of interest to come. You know, Truss could actually make things worse with her speech. And there's to be a Conservative Party political broadcast as well. Then we can look forward to the polls over the next couple of days so we can see just how much mess this conference caused. I hope they made a lot of money on it because they're going to need to hire some magicians for the next campaign. Then next week there's Prime Minister's questions. At just the time when Labour are focusing very intently on voters, the Conservatives, maybe brought on by complacency, have never been less focused on them. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.